So, your inner work journey, your journey for self improvement, your journey to your healing journey, it definitely requires a lot of sacrifice, right? It's not an easy path, it's not an easy journey, and a lot of people confuse the spiritual journey for roses and butterflies and happiness and peace, and while that is one aspect of it, that is certainly furthest from the truth. You get to the other side, the things get better and get greater later, but when you first embark on this journey, you are being initiated in. So that requires you to pretty much, you have to sacrifice so much. There's so much that you have to give up of yourself. Your old ways cannot survive your new life. Your old habits and things that are keeping you bound, they cannot survive in the next destination that you're trying to head to, right? And so, as you're trying to strive to become a better person and transform, you understand that you go through many, many phases and layers of shedding, shedding old skin, just like a snake does. You shed the old skin and you become new, and this journey it's cyclical, it's not linear at all, because, you understand that as you continue to rise and ascend and grow and learn, you realize, whoa, there's an infinite amount of information. Like, I will never stop. You never stop learning. You never stop growing. You never stop evolving, because when you think that you've mastered one area of your life, more comes up, right? And so you start to fine tune yourself in different areas, right? And then more things come up to the surface to trigger you. And then you thought you were all the way over this, or you thought you were fully developed, and then more things come up, so it's this constant cycle where you're just constantly growing and growing and growing and evolving, and you're always going to have to shed new skin as to what no longer serves you, because who you were 5 years ago is not going to be the same person that you are today. If you've been doing the inner work, if you've been constantly working and focusing on evolving, you're not going to be the same person. Some people are the same person that they were 5 years ago, because their mindset refuses to change. They refuse to grow. They refuse to do the inner work to elevate and transform, but when you decide that you want to make changes in your life and that you're going to embark on a different path, when you have awakened from your sleep and your slumber and you decide, wait a minute, I have a purpose here. I need to actually work on myself so that way I can focus on what I was called to do. You understand that you're going to have to give up a lot of things, because your old ways don't work. Your old ways haven't been working, right? And that's why you woke up to realize, whoa, something has to change, right? And so it's going to require you to let go of old habits, things that were holding you back. Your addictions to food, maybe your addiction to sex, maybe your any types of addiction, right? Just bad habits altogether, like waking up late, not planning out your day, not really practicing self-care, respecting yourself, creating healthy boundaries. I mean, the list goes on, collective. Like, there is so much that requires, like, the person that you aspire to be, it requires you to let go of so much. And that is a hard truth and a hard pill to swallow. And it's also, that's where you separate the real from the fake, because the ones who are serious about themselves, the ones who are serious about changing and growing and elevating, they are going to make those sacrifices. They're going to put in the work, because the change is not easy. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing that. If it was that easy, everybody would be on their spiritual journey, but that requires, first of all, it requires you to be honest with yourself. So it requires you to look in the mirror and see your reflection for who you are and accepting you for where you are right now in your journey. No judgment, because everything that has already happened, so you can't change anything. So you're focusing on where you are and accepting where you are. And now, once you've accepted that, now you can actually look in and make the changes that you need to change, right? That it starts with you being honest with yourself. And it requires a level of honesty that most people are not comfortable with. Most people, you have to hold yourself accountable for your actions. Most people avoid their actions, right? They don't hold themselves. So it's really it's not for the weak, collective. And I just want you guys to know that it's very rewarding and it's very worth it, but it's not going to be easy, and if you see people on their spiritual journeys and they're talking spiritual this and spiritual that and everything is so bubbly and they're just so happy and they're saying everything's so great and they never really had to struggle or anything, that's a lie, collective. Those people are fake. Those people are phony. Like your healing journey, your spiritual journey, that it's, again, it gets greater later, but in the beginning it's a battlefield, collective. Like there's nothing fun or exciting about that inner work and spiritual journey, because you have to understand transformation is uncomfortable. Change and growth is uncomfortable. You're shifting and shaking things up. You know what I'm saying? You're like, things were fine the way they were. Things, like, before you realized it, things were just going and flowing, right? You probably were on autopilot, not even really thinking. So that requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of effort and change, because things were already going a certain way. So when you want it to go a different way and it's already going that way, that means you have to literally it requires you to focus, shift your focus, shift your goals, shift your ideas, and literally lock in, right? Like, you lose a lot of people when you decide to go on this journey. You have to be willing to lose friends, lose family, right? This is the great sacrifice, because again, everybody's not going to be on this journey. Everyone is not going to see what you see, and your old friends might still want to keep doing the same things that they've been doing. Your family might still want to involve themselves in the same traditions that they've been doing for years. But you decided that you wanted to take a step away and do something differently because you wanted different results in your life. You weren't happy. These other people, they didn't decide that, or maybe they thought about it, but they didn't put that work in or take those steps, but you did, collective. And so this is why you will lose out on people, because they're not going to have that same ambition. They're not going to have that same dedication that you do, right? And they also will eventually come distractions. Like, if you're embarking on a new journey, and let's say you decide that you want to eat a lot more healthy and cleaner and more for the nutrients of your body, so let's say you cut out drinking, you cut the alcohol out, you cut out the meats and like the heavy meats or whatever. These are just examples. Well, if you're like, obviously your friends and your family, that they don't see nothing wrong with drinking. They don't see nothing. They don't want to make those changes. They're fine with their diet. Okay, well, you have to respect it, right? But are you going to still be around them drinking? No, that's because you will be tempted, right? If you get around them and they're still doing the same things that you've been doing, but you're trying to get away from that, you know how hard it is and tempting it is to go back into that life. So you realize you have to separate yourself. You have to spend less time, because you don't want to engage and indulge in those same activities. You are trying to elevate and go somewhere else, right? So this is how you end up losing people. This is how your journey starts to become a little bit more lonelier, right? But you're never truly alone because the Most High God is with you. And this is why also you will need it. It's non-negotiable at this point having a connection and relationship with the Most High God. When you're on this inner journey and spiritual journey, that's a necessary. You're going to have a connection with the Most High. You will not survive this journey. You will not make it very far without the Most High, right? If you think you can do this on your own, if you think that you got it all covered and in the bag, you will be sadly mistaken, okay? So another thing is you're going to have to drop your ego. You're going to have to get rid of that part of your mind where, you're just self, everything is self. You think you know it all. You think you got the answers. You get offended, and no, you have to drop that ego, babes. You really will go under a lot of ego deaths, and this journey will humble you, right? You'll be eating a lot of humble pie on this journey as well, and then eventually you start to transform and grow, and it gets better later. But in the beginning of the inner journey, like I'm telling you, the inner work it's rough, it's tough, and it's a lot of work and energy, but as long as you don't give up on yourself, you can always have setbacks and detours. That's just a given. Like I said, it's a cycle process. So one minute you'll be feeling like you're doing good, and then in the next moment you feel like you're descending. But it's all a part of that process to help you keep growing, and so as long as you never give up on yourself and never give up on God and never give up on trusting the Most High God, you will be okay? And I hope this message gets to whoever it needs to get to, and I hope this really inspires and motivates you guys if you do want to make those changes. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If this is your first time here on my channel and you enjoy my content, please make sure you subscribe. I would definitely love to have you a part of our tribe because it's a vibe over here all the time. Thank you so much for continuing to support my channel. It's Karkar. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.